Salvete mihi nomen est, Stella, ad hoc est Batgirl Oracle, the Barbara Gordon podcast, episode 260 for May MMXXV. Batgirl to Oracle is brought to you by MileHighComics.com, your new and collectible comic book store. Mile High Comics has an inventory of over 5 million comics from the gold, silver, bronze, and modern age, and over 100,000 trade paperbacks. If you're not into the vintage stock, Mile High Comics also has a subscription service called the New Issue Comics Express, offering a discounted price for comics ready to hit the shelves. So if you're looking for vintage back issues or a great modern subscription service, be sure to check out milehighcomics.com. This is a very exciting episode because we've got the video back and we're also going to be doing some vintage comics. So we're getting back on that train that was derailed temporarily just due to fatigue and busyness. So here we are. I think the only thing that I would like to share personally is that I got my first ever Buffalo Bills tickets for this next season. I was waiting. They were going to drop the schedule and a limited number of tickets last Wednesday. I think it was May 14th at 8 p.m. And so I thought, well, that's the time that I look to see what's a good day and then go for it. And I didn't want to do preseason because preseason they do a different roster, and I definitely want to see Josh Allen play as QB. So I found a pretty good one. September 28th, I think, was at 1 p.m. I thought, oh, this is good. It's afternoon game, so I will feel more confident going by myself. And found a seat that I thought was pretty good and within my budget. And then Ticketmaster kind of bugged out on me, and I had to go through Ticketmaster again. I had to start the whole thing over. And by the time I got back to that seat, it had doubled in cost for some reason. So then I left that particular date and I found another game that was an afternoon game on a Sunday. And now I'm seeing the Bills play the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on November 16th. And I found that exact seat again, and it was a lower price actually than the original price I found in September. So it's amazing. I'm super excited. Period. But it's that's my birthday week. So it's like happy birthday to me in advance. And then number two, it's gonna be chilly. So it's almost as if like it is the authentic Buffalo Bills viewing experience. And it'll be the last season played in that Highmark Stadium. I'm not sure if they're calling the new stadium Highmark or not. So yeah, I'm super pumped and I've got them. So now I just need to get a hotel and everything. But yeah, so that is my most exciting news. So yes, let's do some reviews. I almost could not remember. Well, actually, I shouldn't even say almost. I couldn't remember what I had last on. Luckily, I keep a spreadsheet of the issues that I'm set to cover, and then I, black out the issue once it is complete and I have reviewed it. So I'm coming back. I'm going to be doing 2 issues of Batgirl and 1 issue of Birds of Prey. And so now this series, I guess we'll see how long this is on Batgirl the Oracle is interesting because I have old Batgirl and Birds of Prey and new Batgirl and Birds of Prey. So here we go. We are going to start with Batgirl 66, Destruction's Daughter, Part 1, Hitting Pavement. Writers Anderson Gabrick, pencilers and artist Andy Kuhn, and colorist Wildstorm FX. September 2005 is the cover date. From DC Wikia, the synopsis is as follows. Batgirl has decided that the time has come to learn the truth about her parentage and find out whether Lady Shiva really is her mother. After spending some time with Zero, a young man who has been hanging around her for some time, she heads to Detroit on her motorbike. On her way, she receives some unwelcome attention from Veraco, the road hog, a metahuman with dense skin and porcine tusks. After she knocks him out, he follows her to Detroit, interrupting her investigation, but ends up being hauled away by an OMAC unit, much to Batgirl's confusion, and I will say to my confusion as well. I actually guest starred on a podcast a long time ago. If I find the date, 2020. Wow, that was not a good time. Episode 75, and you can find that over at the Huntress podcast. So can check that out. So that's a more full review. And I cannot recall how everyone liked it, but I recall not liking or not caring for this particular issue as much. So I won't talk too much about it. I feel like it's apropos given the modern comics that Batgirl is going to find her mother, and she is, starting with Shiva as a an obvious candidate. Cassandra officially meets Zero, and she immediately offers him a ride on a motorcycle, which is called being somebody's backpack. And I feel like that's intimate. I mean, I've been a backpack, and I feel like there's definitely trust, lots of trust involved with the driver. And yeah, depending on if you're friends or not. So strangers, while I've seen on Instagram, but I can't tell if it's real or not, where someone it seems like a stranger comes up to a person on a motorcycle and asks, "Can I be your backpack?" And I guess they trade numbers. I don't know if that's true or not. This seems a bit odd. That hey, let's go on this date, and suddenly there's a kiss. Pretty, and I don't know. It was not just a smooch. I think that it was maybe a second date kiss or a third date kiss. But yeah, first date and then uh, unless we even call this a date and then there is a kiss, good thing she's had practice on other people. But yes, very interesting. I wonder what's going through her head about this particular guy, this transient who's living on the streets watching her. Then they introduce themselves, and here we are. So interesting. I like that Cass imagines these various situations of where and how Shiva and Kane may have conceived her. I I think I said this on that podcast, and I'm sure I wigged the male co-leads out by saying that sometimes I do look at people and I wonder, maybe like what is it like for them to actually be together kissing or whatnot. And so I was like, this is, I think, absolutely, I don't know. I feel like it's normal. I saw that on an Instagram reel recently, and I guess maybe it's not normal, but at least there are other people out there that sometimes I think you just look at couples and you can't really figure it out. Like they don't seem to really go together. And so I think this is similar to what Cass is doing. But, was it romantic? Was it a brief burst of passion? Was it a business deal? I liked that she was thinking about that. At first, you think that this guy, this roadhog, is helping Cass out because she's being touched inappropriately, well, really without her consent, and harassed by people in the bar. And even though she can take care of herself, you're like, oh, well, at least someone's helping her out. And then you see that he's not taking no for an answer. And then it gets worse. He tracks her scent down and then he is stalking her. And I just think this is too much. He clearly has some sort of kink because he is definitely enjoying the fighting aspect of everything and getting hurt. So, I guess there might be some BDSM there involved. She does get him in the gonads. So she even says, like, this isn't pretty, but hey, at least it gets a job done. I was thinking as she was fighting him, what would Batman think? Because remember, Batman said never fight a metahuman, but here she is. And then, yes, quite randomly, an OMAC appears. And who knows what the primary function was? The secondary one was to find Cass potentially, but Cass was missing. Well, she was hiding behind a car of some sort. I don't know that Roadhog was the first one. I mean, how would it know that it was he was going there? So it was rather confusing. And then we're in 2005 still. Yeah, I just don't know what it is connect. I mean, it's obviously connecting to the big thing with Infinite Crisis, but a bit odd. I'm going to give this 6 out of 10 shots to the family jewels. I feel like not much is accomplished here except the initial journey and why Cass is going on it. But I recall not liking it when I first reviewed it back in 2020, and I did not like it then, and I didn't really care for the art as well. So we'll move on to Batgirl 67 Destruction's Daughter Part 2 Bird Calls, writer Anderson Gabrick, penciler Ale Garza, and inker Jesse Delberding, and colorist Wildstorm FX. This has an October 2005 cover date. Batgirl continues her search for Lady Shiva in the hope that she can finally discover whether the great assassin is her mother. She seeks out Bronze Tiger, who admits he was involved with her training, but is unsure whether Shiva is her mother. Out of Leeds, Batgirl contacts Oracle for help and spends some time with Black Canary, who, she is surprised to learn, has been receiving training from Shiva. Oracle believes that Shiva is Montenegro. Sorry, Oracle believes that Shiva is in Montenegro, along with a number of other assassins, and the Birds of Prey drop Batgirl off there to continue her quest. I immediately like the art in this issue more so than the previous one. I was also excited and shocked to see Bronze Tiger, which is another connection to the modern issues. If you recall, Shiva, with her dying breath, potentially dying breath, told Cass to go find Bronze Tiger. The flashback when she was younger, training at the behest of Kane, and the connection with the League of Assassins and bloodlines and things like that, I was confused. To be honest, I didn't have the energy to sort of sit there and reread the panels and try to figure out what's going on. So apologies for being a lazy podcaster. It just seemed to be overcomplicating her background and her initial history unnecessarily. It also seems to be retconning some things, and I feel like this is forgotten about because boy, I don't remember it. So I did not care for that at all. I do wonder why she's suddenly in uniform. I thought that this was a Cassandra journey, not a Batgirl one. Later on, when there's a connection, I think that the best thing about this issue is when Cass is with the Birds of Prey. Babs admits to Dinah that she called Cass stupid. And when Dinah asked, why did you do this? She said, she can't read or write. She wasn't even trying. So remember, there's a big debate about, was Babs in the right or was she in the wrong? She admits that, well, you can tell by her face that she does feel bad about it and she regrets it, but those are her reasons, perhaps not necessarily her excuses. Dinah is confused as to why Batman lets her, and then she kind of drifts off after finding out that she can't read or write. And I wonder why Batman doesn't let her do what? Fight? Live on her own? Can we complete that? This actually begs the question of whether Batman knows that Cass can't read or write, because what one might think, of course, he knows this, but also because he's very much focused on the mission and it's more a physical thing, I feel like he probably doesn't know. He has not been paying attention to it. Babs is still recovering at this point from the virus, the Brainiac virus that she had. She does attempt an apology, but Cass is not here for that initially. It's interesting that Cass is relating that she believes Shiva is her mother to Babs at this point. I was thinking, isn't this understood? Donovan was telling me that no, this is kind of the first time, and then I thought, well, they didn't talk about when they were fighting. Like it seemed like, why would this random person decide to fight Cass and then resurrect her? Because Shiva does not have a carrying bone in her body, as we know. And he tried to explain all of that business, but I still think there was some inkling of familial connection because if that was not worth her time, I think Shiva would let the person die because, well, she wasted her time, and why would she fight some sort of person who is unworthy of it? So I don't know, but apparently this is new information. But for me, I think that this has kind of already been there in the background for a long time. I feel like Babs should know backstory. I mean, how much does she know? She should know about Kane and then potentially this. Then Dinah, she's so proud of, the progress that she's made with her training and everything. And so they're fighting, and then she does some Shiva moves, and Cass goes absolutely feral. And it was very concerning because she was choking Dinah, and not in a fun way. She was choking her so that she couldn't speak or breathe or use her canary cry, and that was nuts. I trying to kind of parse through why she went off like that. And she was definitely upset and saying that she was reading deceit on Dinah. But to have that from an obvious ally, that be the reaction, feels a bit too dark. I just don't think that that would be that physical reaction against an ally seems yeah, I don't like it unless she's already in this kind of dark place and not trusting someone because she's having to re-engage with Barbara, and Barbara broke her trust to a certain extent. So yeah, I don't know if someone can explain that, like you feel like, yeah, that was a reasonable reaction from Cassandra. Let me know right in. Um, yes, it was cute slash not so cute how um Cass says patronize instead of patronize, and Barbara was going to correct her, and she's like, no, this is only going to make it worse. So then she stops. But I think that this is an amazing conversation between Babs and Cass, focusing on what the relationship is like and repairing and moving forward. And you have that image at the end where Babs is, it's kind of a weird angle to be honest, but let's just say they're hugging each other, and I think that they have repaired. Um, so Barbara is explaining, I guess, everything that had gone through, and she says that you're very special to me, and Cass wonders why, and Barbara says you even have to ask, and Cass says at this moment, yes, I do, which I think is appropriate. Like, you need to kind of spell it out for me. And Barbara says, you're you. You make me know change is real. And Cass says, but you worry. And so it's good that she's kind of starting to understand and empathize and figure out why Barbara did some of the things she did or said something that she said. And Bab says, yes, I do worry that you'll get hurt or worse, and mentions Steph. And Cass is upset that that happened. She doesn't want to get shut out. Babs doesn't. And then Cass, in a very adult move. So this is one of the things that I brought up with this latter part of this run, is that she does these things, both like emotional beats as well as verbal things that people well versed in society would know what to do, as well as interactions with people. But I just don't believe that Cass would be able to do this. And she brings it up. She says, you did that to Batman. And I'm just like, in what time would she know that this is something that you could do in this sort of thing? Which Barbara, that was like the wrong thing to say, is like, that's not what this is about. And I would say that it's potentially a different, like a very different situation in my opinion. Yeah, what happened between me and Bruce is between us, you and I, or something else. I care about you, and this isn't just an ex-librarian, ex-Batgirl thing. It's a friend thing. You got to learn to read. You'll never take over for him if you don't. And Cass says, how'd you know? And Barbara says, because I know you now since we have a little time. And then Cass starts reading something and writing at the same time, and Barbara's sort of mapping her brain waves and figuring out that, things are a bit jumbled, and let's work with it, which I think is very interesting from an educator perspective, and like a literacy coach, diagnosing things and figuring out, okay, reading and writing is possible, but we got to do it a different way. I will say that Barbara never fully apologizes. She just uses Cass's end goals to convince her to train and train her reading and writing, which I will say is a bit manipulative. And you know what I think about apologies and saying I'm sorry. So I'm disappointed about that in particular. So I'm sure Donovan's going huzzah. And yes, I think the final remark on this is just that Dinah sure is extra with how she is attached to the top of the plane and uses her sonic cry to break it's like a bridge or destroy a road. Is there not a back door to the plane that you can do this? But I'm going to give this 8.5 out of 10 reunions. And now moving on to the last one, it is Birds of Prey 86, a wakeful time. And this brought back fun memories because I used that image of moving on up when I think I first got picked up by Batman universe. And I basically moved my Batgirl the Oracle blog over, and it had that image and then had the link over. So it was nice nostalgia. So November 2005 is the cover date. It is split into three parts. All parts are written by Gail Simone, but each part has a different artist. So part one, penciler Adriana Mello, inker Will Conrad, colors Hi-Fi Design. Part two, artist Bruce Timm, colorist Hi-Fi Design. And part three, penciler David Lopez, inker Fernando Blanco, and colorist Hi-Fi Design. Recovering from her operation, Barbara Gordon moves into a new home in Metropolis, Dalton Tower, taking over the taking over the top few floors for herself, Lady Blackhawk, and potentially others. Black Canary organizes a housewarming party attended by a number of Barbara's friends and associates. Afterwards, Lady Blackhawk presents a gift, Airy 2, a helicopter equipped with much of the same stealth technology as Airy 1. She also produces Birds of Prey jackets, figuring that the team may as well have an official name. She offers one to Huntress, but she declines. Later that night, Black Canary foils the prankster's latest scheme, who was dressed up as either an Incan or an Aztecan priest ready to sacrifice. It is confused which one. Even people on the street are like, is this Incan or Aztec or Mayan? And sometime later, Huntress moves further up the chain of command in the Gotham mob and agrees to take the jacket. She's back on board, and there's more that goes down with that. She's trying to help out a student that she has. So I will say Babs must be like my friend Harry Shute because she is not a fan of surprises. It is comical how Dinah says, remember that time you promised me that you'd never get mad at me? And Barbara's like, I never promised that. And then, there's a surprise. And I think that Barbara makes some threats with love. Babs's doctor is at the party for some reason, but we'll just go with it. Dick is there and awkwardly doesn't want to go up to talk to her because he isn't sure that she wants him to, though Dinah encourages him. This is like romance tale for sure, just miscommunication trope. And later he apologizes for not knowing about the virus, which I thought was interesting because isn't that more Babs isn't telling him about the virus? So I don't know. He has like nothing to do with it. And then by the end, it does look like romance is back on the table. They decided let's not apologize about things that we had no control of or we don't know, and then kind of move forward. So it looked like there's maybe a date on the books, etc. Creote and Savant are there. So the people that are there, I think, are just very interesting. It says something about the community and the relationships between the people. Cassandra's not, but they have mended fences, but she's, on her journey, but that she's mentioned is great. Zinda is thirsting after Creote, and Savant still seems oblivious that there's some homoeroticism between the two of them. He has no idea. Tisk tisk, that could be another romance novel right there. I wonder if there's a fanfic there probably is, about Creote and Savant. I should look at Wings of Our Own. Is that what it was called? Long time ago. I like that there is the view of the Daily Planet outside of the windows. It is difficult to believe that this is the first time they've discussed their name possibly being the Birds of Prey. It's funny, we just always assumed that this is what it is. You had the earpieces, which were earrings, and the emblem of the necklace is the speaking device, but we've never named them, and that's kind of nuts to think about that. Zinda got the squad a helicopter, which I think is interesting. Just, she also has her money, and this was a gift for everybody as well as for Barbara. I like that Helena doesn't initially take them up on the offer of the team. She still has some things to work through, but by the end, she does. I don't like comics that switch artists mid-issue, even if there is a fair division of stories, which because we have three parts to this issue, it works out. But I personally Do not care for that. The Dinah part actually is my least favorite. Just I feel like it does not accomplish much beyond putting Birds of Prey on the map as Metropolis heroes, because the big thing is that Superman is out of town, so the prankster thought, "Oh, I'd be safe," but you got the Birds of Prey, so now people also know that, oh, there are other heroes here beyond Superman. The Huntress part is interesting because you get to see her struggles with being a teacher and trying to help student, but not being able to. There's a student there whose brother is getting, I don't know, solicited by the mob. I'm not even sure what, like, they're, or by a gang, like, basically they're trying to get him to join. And so she's trying to help him. But in doing it, almost makes it worse because the gang leader was like, because of this, I'm going after their family. And it just, obviously, we don't deal with those situations all the time, but it just makes me think of like it's a real teacher issue that you're trying to help students, and sometimes it's out of your control, certain things. Sometimes you're helping makes it worse, when helping hurts. Different things like that, so I appreciated that. And then she finally realizes why Batman and Oracle's code of ethics works. It's ambiguous what happens, but I think that she does kill the guy who threatens their family, because she talks about, like, I had to break that or whatever. You don't see anything, but then she talks about this code of ethics. So I feel like she's turned a corner. I don't know why it took this long, but here we go. And she has, yeah, also infiltrated the mob as a capo. So that is going to be interesting to see how it is used going forward. I'm going to give this 8 out of 10 birds. We are setting up a new status quo. Again, I will say, because we kind of just had one when they were in the Area 1 and moving around, and now we've got another status quo. So, and it doesn't seem like too long ago we had the first one. So I'm hoping that we're good here for a while. I have no listener emails. People are dying off, as they say, and giving me things, but that is quite all right. Perhaps it's because I've lost people, given it's not on Spotify anymore. But guess what is back? Size's Radio Hour. So when I come back, I'm going to review Batgirl Volume 6, Number 7, and Birds of Prey Volume 5, Number 21. But first, Zaius's Radio Hour featuring Toxic by Britney Spears. See you soon.